Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. I am excited to talk about what I've read this last week, as always, so let's jump into that. The first book I read, I am not going to go into detail about. I read Joan of Arc by Mark Twain, and I have a whole video on that. So if you want to go check that out, I will link it down below, and I talk all about that and compare it to another retelling of the Joan of Arc story. So if you're interested in that video, go check out the link down below, but I'm just gonna skip ahead to the next book that I read. As is so often the case, this next book was a recommendation from Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, so I will make sure to link his channel down below. And I picked up the book Mercy Street by Jennifer Haig. This book is following a few different plot lines. We have our character who works at a women's health clinic, and then we have a pot dealer that we follow his life, and we also follow a protester outside of the women's clinic and a online friend of our protester who has some strong anti-abortion views and wants to share them. So we have these different characters, and it really shows an interesting picture of their lives, and I thought the story was interesting. The part that I thought was both the most compelling and the most awful to read was there was a character that was very much a toxic person, right? And the book did a very good job at making you feel like you were in his head, and it was not a place I wanted to be. So I don't know if I really loved the experience of reading this book, but I feel like it was well done in that this man with these toxic beliefs about women and their worth and all these things, it felt so real and was very gripping. Like I could not put this down. I had to get to the end. Just that impending sense of doom as it goes through the different perspectives, that it was hard to put down, and I was worried that I was going to just be watching some horrible train wreck. It was just kind of anxiety inducing, honestly. I think the author did a really good job at putting you inside this guy's head, and I caught myself, I swear, I had weird facial expressions while I was reading it. I'm glad I didn't read it in public, because I think when I was in this guy's chapters, my face was just like, you know, just these awful facial expressions. So it ends up kind of having some interesting things. I don't know if the ending tied everything up just right, or I don't know. I kind of left feeling a little just unsettled because of that character just feeling so real and scary to be in his head. So good job to the author. I don't know if I blanketly recommend this, because I don't think my reading experience was necessarily pleasant, but was it well done that it put me in there and made me read to the end and I had to know what happened? Yes. So if that kind of thing doesn't bother you and you want to get into the nitty-gritty of why this guy can't see women as people, yeah, sure, pick this book up, but ooh, it was a bit of a rough read for me. Another book I want to talk about is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart, and I read this with my daughter. This book follows a group of talented, gifted children as they are trying to save the world with the help of a mysterious Mr. Benedict. And I enjoyed reading it aloud. It had some very clever moments. I just think this book could have been a little shorter. It just kind of went on, and I'm not sure if what happened warranted quite as many pages as it was given. I feel like it could have been either more plot heavy or shortened up a little, especially reading it out loud. I'm like, is this almost done? So while I thought that some of the little things were clever and there were little puzzles, I didn't really want to continue after this. There are other books after. So I bought the whole series for my daughter, and she went and read them in a week. She has gone back and read the first one a couple times after because she really liked the first one. And she said that she really liked the series, but that last book, the one that it's more of a prequel, she said was kind of boring and they didn't have enough adventures and it wasn't very fun for her. So I think that this was a good book. I enjoyed it, but I feel like one was enough for me, and maybe the quality doesn't hold up all the way through the series based on my daughter's reaction. But I did have a fun time reading it. It was fun and clever, and so now I started reading aloud Enola Holmes, so we'll see if that's any good. Now, thanks to Erin at Erin Read a Book, I picked up the book Replay by Ken Grimwood. So I'll make sure to link Erin's channel down below. And this book has a very familiar premise. We have Jeff who dies when he's 43 years old and then wakes up again in his 18-year-old body and lives his life all over again. And this starts repeating. It's Groundhog Day for his life. We watch him as he struggles with the meaninglessness of the repetitions in his life. We watch him as he tries to live a life right or not care and hide away, and we watch him make these different decisions through different lives. I feel like this book could feel a little bit tired because we have heard this trope quite a few times, but this book did come out in 1987, and that was before the movie Groundhog Day came out, so I don't know if this was quite a tired trope at the time it came out. This might have been a very, oh yeah, cool, live it over and over again, let's see what happens. And so I think for the time, it might have felt a little more fresh. I couldn't help but compare it a lot to The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North that I read back in September. And that book also has the whole replaying your life multiple times and trying to find meaning and what does that mean for everyone. So I think that they both have some similarities. I did find Replay to be a somewhat compelling story, and I liked how it ended up, but it was very much of the time. It was in the 1980s, and there were some things that just I was hoping that our main character Jeff would grow out of. And I get the whole, oh yeah, nothing matters, so I might as well go have a bunch of casual flings and do drugs and whatever. I get that might happen, but I just didn't feel like I saw throughout his other lives enough character growth where he really looked at women better and where he really understood the meaning of life. I just thought that living your lives over and over again, yes, could be dull or difficult, but so many fun opportunities, right, to learn new things, figure things out, and I just didn't see that growth that I was hoping to see. And so it was interesting. If you like this kind of trope, I think you'd have a fun time with it because it is that same Groundhog Day thing over and over again. But I do think that the characters had a few pitfalls and the main character had a hard time feeling very likable or like he was growing and learning it throughout the book. And the last book I picked up was another recommendation from Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I picked up Patsy by Nicole Y. Dennis Ben. This is following Patsy, who is living in Jamaica and finally gets her visa to go to the United States, and she sets out to make a new life. But what she does is she leaves her daughter behind, and this is following her story as well as her daughter's story and how they grow and come to terms with things. And this book was a hard book because it's really hard to connect with Patsy at first because you feel so awful that she's abandoning her child, right? And I think that the book does a good job at showing that for what it is, but also showing throughout the book some of the background so we can understand where Patsy was coming from and see how she's growing and changing. And so I thought the book did a really good job that way. So I picked up this one in audio format, and I really did like that because I think that the audio performance really helped bring the different accents to life and really helped pull together the book for me. I liked that performance, and I thought that the book did a good job at discussing these difficult issues. I think that where it lacked a little was, I feel like her child, True, needed a little bit more time. We needed some more screen time with True because learning about True's life and learning about what was going on with the dad and the stepmom and some things, there were just some things that I feel like by the end I was still a little confused about, and I wasn't sure how things came about the way they did. But watching Patsy's growth was really great, and I thought that it had some really interesting messages. It's one of those where I don't know if I like or agree with the characters and their decisions, but I feel like I understand them, right? There are things that you just kind of want to be like, no, don't do that. Why are you doing this? That's not right. That's not okay. But you understand why they would make these kinds of decisions. And I thought that that was really a great thing. I think this book is going to kind of stick in my head for a while, just the way that Patsy had this avoidance of dealing with some of these issues and why. And I think that it was really well done. So it was a really heartfelt book with a lot of character growth and showing the characters as real people. So I do recommend it. And that is what I have read the past week or so. I will be back with another book wrap up soon. I don't have any visitors anymore, so I'm back to my normal reading, although I probably will be picking up a few more audiobooks because I just ordered some yarn to start knitting a dress. So we'll see how that goes. And I will see you all on the next one.